Welcome back to Collect Your Thoughts. I'm Sean Millhouse, licensed professional counselor.
And I'm Jason LeCompte, licensed professional counselor.
How's it going, Jason?
Good. I'm excited for this little cool little idea we have going on.
It's a really cool idea, I think. Yeah. And I first wanted to sort of give a little behind the scenes of how we got to this idea and how it really did come like from both of us in ways that like we didn't realize until we really started collaborating on it, which I think is like the exciting part of collaboration. And so anyway, the thought that I had, I was listening to our Guilty Pleasures episode and I was listening to, us yab, and I had a moment where I thought, dang it, I wish I'd said this in that moment, or I wish I had added that. And I thought, wait, that'd be really cool to like maybe like at the beginning of an episode when we're, first like just shooting the shit, that could be something like, what, I was looking, or I just, I took a listen to our episode on blah, blah, blah. And I wanted to also talk about this thought that I came to, collecting your thoughts, and to, say how our process is truly one that it doesn't just stop with the episode. The hope is that with what we talk about, these are themes that will resonate in our lives in different ways, and that these are hopefully things that we're going to mull over and chew on a little bit. And so I had I forget if I texted you or you texted me, but I kind of shared this idea, and then you said like, well, what if we actually had like a whole like episode, just like
mini episode,
mini episode to kind of do that process. And which I thought, oh my gosh, that's so great. And then Jason came up with Afterthoughts as the thing, which I love because I'm like, oh, it's like we're saying collect your afterthoughts. It's after the original thoughts of what we recorded. And now we're just kind of expanding on it in a brief way. And it doesn't have to necessarily be about the exact topic. It could be something that was mentioned in an episode that we just like go, you know what? I really thought that was interesting. Or, you know what? I heard from people listening this topic or this segment really spoke to them, or they really struggled with it, and I want to say more on it or talk about that. And it kind of became this little idea that we're now trying out, and hopefully it'll be something that people like and get to, continue the conversation on around some of these really cool things that we're discussing.
I mean, these topics are huge. There's no way that we can capture everything that goes on in an hour. And some of them are just so juicy that I think they're worth a revisit. But also part of this process too is to hopefully start bringing in some listener ideas, some comments, some feedback that we get. I mean, we've only released 4 episodes. We're already getting, it's mostly friends and family at this point, but it's also people that we don't know also starting to get back to us through some social media channels and stuff like that. So it's really incredible to hear that you guys are engaged in this and enjoy these topics. And so this is a chance for us to sort of reflect that back to you as well. So
yeah. Like that's, I think what I have always wanted out of this podcasting process is to really create community and dialogue. And that this, I feel like, is absolutely helping to support that idea and that goal. So,
great.
So yay, teamwork. Teamwork makes the dream work. I really, I've said to Jason, I've said to a lot of people, the Guilty Pleasures episode has probably been my favorite one to record just because I love the topic. I think it was a fun conversation, and I think like you can go so many different ways with it. So like you said, Jason, it is impossible to include every take, every facet. It's just, that's the whole point, is like there's infinite ways and directions to go. But as I was listening, there was specifically in the part where, we were talking about people who have, guilty pleasures that maybe other people don't understand, or maybe that they feel turned off by. And I realized we kind of spoke on it a tiny bit towards the end of the episode, but I really wanted to maybe break down the challenge that I think comes with disliking something strongly without really understanding why. What I mean by that is when I shared, let's say, a guilty pleasure that I'm really into, and if someone's like, oh, yuck, I don't really know how I feel about that. That's weird, or that's this. And it kind of comes off judgmental. And I think we all are guilty of doing this sometimes, where we yuck on someone's yum, as they say. And I thought, what if we could challenge people to ask themselves, if you are getting up in arms over someone else's guilty pleasure, then why? I always think it's important to ask why. Why does it bother me so much? Why does it grind my gears? What does it really mean to me? Is it based on a core value or something learned? Or is it something that we've never challenged in ourselves that we grew up with? And after sitting with the conversation that we have, do we still feel the same way after we do that internal thinking? Is there a way for us to embrace other people and things and differences in a way that doesn't feel so toxic? And does it help me understand myself better? Does it help me understand others better? And does it make me maybe a better, freer person for the people in our lives? So like, I say all that because I'm curious, Jason.
You're saying a lot right now, Sean.
I am saying a lot.
And like, which question do I answer? Which one is he
and that's
asking?
why, yeah, like it's a multi-pronged, like
100% it is. Yeah.
And so like, I was curious for you first, Jason, can you think of anything where maybe there was somebody's guilty pleasure where maybe you had an instant like, ooh, I just had something bitter that I tasted in my mouth, and
so
a strong visceral response?
Well, let me just comment on something first. So
yeah, please.
I feel like what you're describing is an emotional reaction, which is really what drives the bus. One of my favorite authors is Mark Manson, and he has this great sort of metaphor for how we navigate our lives. And he talks about like, we want to believe that logic is driving the car, is in the car of ourselves, right? That logic is behind the wheel and that emotions is sitting next to us navigating. And he's like, that's actually the opposite. Emotion is behind the wheel and logic is drawing the map after the turns are made. And I'm like, holy shit, that's a really great way to talk about that. But that's where a lot of these reactions come from, is they're instantaneous and they're emotional. And I think maybe I've used this quote in an episode or not, but the Viktor Frankl quote about like the in the between stimulus and response is a space, right? This to me, I feel like defines what you're asking, or really speaks to what you're asking. Is people hear
it's definitely part
something,
of that process.
It is. People hear something that they don't like and they have an immediate emotional reaction, but it's not, we don't pause. That's what that quote's talking about, right?
Yes.
Giving a pause, putting space in between that stimulus, that whatever they hear and they go, "Ugh," and their outward response, which in that space is where we get to decide how we interact with people, how we interact with the world. But if we're just this close to our response, to our reaction, then we're not ever asking the question why. We're not ever going deeper and going, how come I'm so uncomfortable in this moment? That's a very human thing to do.
Yeah.
Is to have a reaction to something that stimulates us in a particular way, right? We are animals. We have a nervous system. We have senses, and we're going to react to things that we like or don't like in various ways. But when we have to really check in with ourselves and go, and I think what this is in service of healthier relationships. This is what you're talking about. We can certainly not agree with or not like somebody's thing, somebody's guilty pleasure, but that doesn't mean that we need to outwardly judge them, condemn them, attach stigma. We don't have to perpetuate the guilt in a guilty pleasure just because we don't like something. Like you said, we don't have to yuck on their yum. Only if we pause and we decide that's fine for them, but not for me. And so what I'm going to say is, cool, bro, you do you. Like, I mean, that's really what it comes down to, right? That's I feel like
I think that's part
what you're
of
asking me. Yeah.
Like, and so that's where, to me, what I really want to dive into with the conversation is, okay, so that is, to me, yes, the service level thing that must happen is first pausing, noticing, and then choosing to do something different than maybe having a negative attitude towards what somebody shares with you. And my deeper curiosity is around that person then going, but why do I feel that way? That's what I'm more curious about.
Yeah, but you're talking about deeper introspective work, and that's not for everybody.
I know, but see, and this is where we keep disagreeing. Why can't everybody do that? everyone has the capacity to think more deeply.
I
You don't
disagree
think
with
so?
that. No, I actually don't.
Well, I think this is interesting because it's sort of philosophical differences in how we approach people, which
Yes.
I love because that's
I do
what
too.
I want to dissect that. And so,
Yeah.
and also, I want to call this out for
Yeah.
anybody that knows us. I consider myself to be way more critical and cynical than Mr. LeCompte here. Jason is pretty like sunshine and like kindness and pleasant. And I can definitely be, I think, way more like stink eye. And so
I try and give everyone the benefit of the doubt. I do, when I first meet them, try and give them that.
Absolutely. But it's interesting that when we go deeper, I guess I subscribe to a belief that everyone has the possibility within them. They just haven't gotten the opportunity to unlock it because of a million reasons: socioeconomic status, religion, family upbringing, intellectual struggles, their identity and their gender and their sexuality, things like that, that totally shape us. And I think that there's opportunity if a person's willing that they could absolutely shift this. And I think the reason why I believe in this so wholly is because we see it all the time with people, especially we see it in politics where they may have been raised in a certain way, but then they live a little and they see people they love or people they start caring about impacted by things that they before would have been like, why would you be upset about that? Why would you be concerned with that? But then they start giving a damn because they have skin in the game now, because they care. And so it evolves and it changes them. And then if you then go deeper and you challenge, why do I allow myself to think this way? If I'm brave enough to do that work, then maybe I can shift my perspective to opening up to letting everyone have what they need without it hurting anyone else.
So I'm stuck on the willingness part, because what I think we're differing on in this, sort of maybe at a more basic level, is the idea that the potential that everyone carries to do this work, right? It's kind of, you didn't say that word, but that's the way that I'm listening to it, is everyone has the potential to do this work.
Yeah.
So the way I think about potential is you have to have the opportunity to explore this. You have to have the ability to explore this. You have to have the need to explore this. But then the only thing that's missing here is the willingness. And that you said that they have to be willing to dive into this. And I think there are so many cultural and values-led constraints around willingness, including privilege that people are born into, and they don't give a shit.
Yeah.
Truly, to be willing to go inside and go, why am I so uncomfortable?
Yeah.
And so their potential is not there. The thing that's missing is the will. They have to choose to be introspective. This is why I disagree that everyone might have the ability to be introspective, but they don't necessarily take the opportunity or have the need or are willing. So maybe we're just like,
so I guess maybe but I think you're illustrating my point is I think that's what we're here for, is that maybe if one person hears us go, have you really thought about why you do that? Like,
hopefully.
Have you thought
I'm knocking
about
wood, Sean? Hopefully.
No, but I guess like I have to, this is maybe going on at like my own deep philosophical level of existence, but I think I have to tell myself that it's always possible or I would lose hope in my work. Because if I see someone and I decide, I don't think they're ever going to decide to be willing. I think it's more a matter of you can catch people in the right way and have really fruitful conversations like this. And maybe that then turns something in them that allows them to go, I don't want to make someone feel bad about that. I don't like it necessarily, but good for them. And maybe people just need to know that it is possible to give yourself that permission, and how much better your life feels when you don't feel dragged down by thoughts that aren't really freeing you or helping you access peace with other people.
Okay. I want to zoom out, I think, for a second, or maybe just kind of come back to like the guilt and the guilty pleasures. So we're talking about if we do this introspective work and then we can understand where our discomfort comes from, then we can hopefully choose to let go of the judgment or the stigma that we put on something that's not necessarily harmful to anyone, right? And that somebody else enjoys. And so then we can more readily allow them to have a pleasure and not attach this thing to it. So they don't have to feel guilty. Is this what we're talking about?
I look at it as like the guilty pleasure was sort of the entrance to challenging this within ourselves. But then the deeper work is to always understand our motives. Like, why do I do what I do? What is driving?
Why am I guilty about my pleasure?
Like, this also goes back to values.
Why am I judging why am I judging other people about it?
Yeah. But
is
I
this
think
what we're saying? Yeah.
Yeah. It goes back to like values work too. If you're really living in your values, as you say, how does your thought on your judgment of that guilty pleasure how is that derived in your values?
Well, so my brain immediately goes to conservative conservative religious values. And like, let's bring back pornography since you mentioned it in the episode. There are a lot of conservative religious people who will say that watching pornography is wrong. So that is a value that they hold, that they believe is right. And unfortunately, the evangelical Christian community says that they can push those values on other people. I don't subscribe to that, but that they believe they have the right and the privilege and also the authority to then put that value on someone else and say, you should be ashamed of your use of pornography. When I don't have that value. Maybe I like pornography. Maybe I enjoy watching it. So to me, there is a values-led conversation there, but also like we're going to have differing values. So we're still going to have guilt in that pleasure somewhere.
But do people really understand their values? Like, do they really subscribe to those values? And I'm not saying every person doesn't subscribe exactly to what you're talking about.
Yeah.
But it is not lost on me that at the Republican National Convention, the rise,
I know what you're going to say.
I know you know. Is that the rise of the use of the Grindr app, which is for people who are queer to have sexual experiences or to date or to encounter.
It's a hookup. Yeah.
It's a hookup app.
Yeah.
And the studies show that it blows up wherever the Republican National Convention occurs. And this goes in the face of a lot of the people that outwardly say, you know, same-sex marriage is wrong, being homosexual or trans is sinful, whatever. But then they are practicing it themselves. And so to me, that goes, so you're not really living your values. In fact, it sounds like you actually don't subscribe to your values. You've told yourself these are your values, but have you really dug deep and asked yourself, do I really feel this way? Or am I scared to explore it because I think it's going to make God mad at me?
So you're saying they have unnecessary guilt about the pleasures that they engage in? If they really just did some introspective work and decided what was actually important to them, that they could then have those kinds of experiences and not have guilt.
If you can really look into it and go, when I look at my side of the street, am I truly operating from the place of those supposed values? Then, you know, okay, there you go. And you can be kind about it or civil about it at least. But there's a lot of people who are just blindly leaning into things instead of actually saying, oh, wait a second. Like, I don't like that. Like, for example, I know there's people that will say like, oh, I always like dressed a certain way because that was the way my mom dressed me as a child. And I thought that was just my style. And that was also how everybody dressed at school. But then I went off to college or I lived on my own and started working. And then I discovered other ways. And I went, oh, I actually really like this style differently. And so I think that then informs how we respond to the diversity of other people's guilty pleasures by just being more open-hearted because we're not closed off to that many things can be true.
But I'm white and I'm straight and I'm male and I don't have to think about those things because I have privilege.
And that's why we're here to go, but why not? I guess that's why I think, what is the point of a podcast if it isn't to make you go, oh, that's how other people see this, or I also agree with this, or I really disagree with this. But then, okay, if you do, why? And if you can really go, and it really is,
and dig down deep.
It's not fear-based. It's not out of just, I mean, I think we see it a lot. There's a lot of these sort of man on the street interviews where they'll say, oh, do you like blah, blah? And they go, oh, no, not at all. And then they go, oh, how come? I don't know. Just 'cause.
I just don't like it.
I just don't.
Yeah.
And I'm okay. Like,
I mean, to be fair, like I get that answer in sessions a lot.
and
where
I challenge it.
Oh, I always do. Every
good.
single time. Yeah, every single time.
I thought you were just like, well, that's just how the world works.
No. I'm just expanding. I'm expanding it
Okay.
to the general public, right?
That's exactly. That's yes.
right. I think it takes sitting down and being willing again to do that introspective work. But a lot of people walking around, they aren't willing to, or they don't feel the need to, or they're privileged and don't have to, or right, like
yeah.
So there is a lot of that, and that's just to bring it back around to guilt. Like that's probably why a lot of these things that we talk about that are really normal, everyday, harmless pleasures, they really are carrying a lot of stigma because of the judgment of others, because those people haven't really done their inner work.
Yeah. And that's where my hope, maybe my vision for part of what we do here is that we are encouraging people to maybe go into their lives and have really interesting, rich, and meaningful conversations that are challenging, but also rewarding, because it does lead to connection when you are allowing yourself to sit with uncomfortable automatic thoughts.
Yeah.
I guess that's what I also look at therapy as, is like a lot of times my work is, it's not about telling people what to do. It's saying, hey,
God, no.
have you considered, well, right. Cause I always tell people,
I don't want that power.
I don't, well, yes. Amen to that. Yeah. First of all, I don't want that responsibility.
Right.
Second of all, I walk a very different life based off of my own world and experiences. And so do you. And I can't jump into your head and drive and steer your life for you. So you need to be able to know how to do this. However, have you considered this option? What do you think about this? Yeah. What does it bring up for you? Does it scare you? Does it excite you? Does it have no response? Is there a reason?
It's really just exploring possibilities. Like that's what.
Yes.
I know we've talked about this before. Like that's one of my favorite things about therapy is that I get to break stuff down. I get to demolish sometimes things, ideas, beliefs, cultural norms, like whatever it is. I love being a deconstructionist. But another way that I talk about it too is sometimes we can take a moment in time and something that we might just gloss over, like a quick judgment about somebody's yum that I've just yucked, right? We get to slow that moment down. And instead of just taking it at face value, we get to go, what's in there? And then I spread it out and I look at all the little micro parts to that and like, okay, that was uncomfortable. Why would that be uncomfortable for you? Where did you learn about that? How does that, right? Like all the other sort of like, and then we go, oh, wait, like that yuck that I just put on somebody's yum is made up of all this stuff. Now I understand why I'm saying yuck. I can still say yuck. That's okay. I'm not here to tell you to not, but to then put it on somebody else is then hopefully the decision that you're not going to make, because we don't need to be walking around judging other people.
Yeah, well, and I think just to make sure, it's important for all of us to do our due diligence to say, if I am going to like put myself out there in a pretty substantial way, I want to make sure I know why I'm backing that up. The other underlying hope is that because I am deeply afraid that our world, especially our country, is not doing enough critical thinking, that I want to, I know you're laughing. Amen. But like, that's what I want our work to be, is that, and I know it's true that it happens that I have my clients that then go back into their lives and they talk to their friends, they talk to their partners, they talk to their children and their bosses, their coworkers, and they share their thoughts based off of things they allow themselves to sit with and dissect and deconstruct. And after they've collected their thoughts, they come up with maybe a different curiosity. It may not change the opinion, but at least it makes them curious as to, where does this come from?
Right. That was my whole point in describing, like, you can still choose to not like it. You can still feel the way you want to feel about it, but also like, how do you want to do that towards other people? So,
I know I'm not going to have every single person that has like a negative bias towards something happen to come into my office for me to have a real deep sit down with them. I know that that's not something that happens easily, but I do believe in change and I do believe in self-exploration. And that's why I think I have hope that, like, for example, when I saw an interview years ago from a man that was a former Ku Klux Klan member, and about how now his work is all about righting the wrongs of things that he once participated in, and also helping his fellow individuals that felt similarly to how he once felt. He now really tries to embrace them in a way that isn't shunning them. And I think that's what I want this to be, is like, I don't want to cut people off because I don't like where they're coming from. I want to make sure that they know what they're doing, and I want them to know why I'm doing what I'm doing. Because I think sometimes if we don't know the why, I'm not saying it's everything, but it's definitely something big.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a good point.
So that's what I wanted us to mull over today.
No, I like that it was a little argumentative. Feels like too strong of a word, but like
there was a healthy debate.
It was a healthy debate. Yeah.
A healthy, what's the word? It starts with a D, not discussion, but
discourse.
Discourse.
Yeah. Yeah. Nice.
Yeah. To wrap this up, from this conversation, do you have any afterthoughts that you would like to put out into the universe for our listeners to mull over, chew on, to take with them after listening to this episode?
I would encourage everyone who feels like they have the potential to do introspective work to do it. And if that means like sitting quietly for 10 minutes and just noticing what your brain is thinking, like, great. Like, that's still you going into your inner world. But if it means really dissecting your value, your belief system, and deciding what works for you and what doesn't, and how that makes you interact with the world, maybe that could help you be a better person, find a little bit more peace, a little bit more cooperation, a little more connection with people, which is what we're all striving for anyway. So that would be the way I'd come at that.
I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. My afterthought for listeners is stay curious. It's important for us to never stop believing that we can always change our minds. And also decide to stay the same. It's not requiring us to always change, but we evolve as people all the time. I mean, I think what they say, our cells literally regenerate every 7 years. So we're actually a completely different person in a way. If we can do that on a cellular level, then why not on an intellectual and emotional level?
Yeah.
And get curious, have curious conversations. Like, if you have a best friend out there and you've never asked them what they think about something that matters to you, then maybe say, hey, can we have a vulnerable conversation around fill in the blank topic? And I want to hear what you think about that. And what are your experiences with that? Are there biases that impact that? That way we can then celebrate each other in a way that, while we're not saying we're going to do it ourselves, but we're going to appreciate the diversity of human beings.
Sure. Yeah. I like that.
Yeah. All right. Well, we hope that you listening enjoyed this episode. We really, really want to hear from you. If you could please comment on our socials. You can find us at Bentonville Counseling on Instagram and Bentonville Counseling Collective on our Facebook. You can also find us on YouTube and leave comments there, as well as we now have a TikTok, which is at Collect Your Thoughts. I would love to hear from you guys. I think Jason would. Actually, Jason doesn't want to hear from any of you. Just kidding. I just wanted to engage Jason a little bit because I'm talking a lot. Yeah. Please let us know what you think. And if you have different thoughts on this that are very different from our own, let's have a dialogue about it. That's what this is all about, is collecting thoughts and then putting them out there and seeing if we can maybe make a little sense in this really weird world.
Yeah. Great. Good combo, man. Thanks.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Well, everybody, thank you for taking a little time to sit with us and hear what we had to say. And I hope that you remember to take a deep breath and
collect your thoughts.
Yeah. See you guys next time. Bye.